memory reaction times and already pre-thought what you're going to do in every circumstance. Otherwise, it's already passed and you missed it. The one simple little string of words, I don't remember where I picked it up, but I like it. It's out of SLR, not Mirrorless World. It says, if you see it, like meaning in your camera and you're firing through, if you see it, you missed it. Why? Because, hey, John, welcome. If you see it and you missed it, because as that thing goes dark in and out, it's so fast that the action comes and you get excited and you see all the photographers after the play chimping on the back of their cameras. They're trying to see if they hit the decisive moment. But we'll talk about the equipment. Where my output is, before I get to the skill set, my outputs, this is the famous play of the Saints when that receiver, when the famous pass interference call, and the usage from my perspective of these goes out to a lot of the media side. There's the image, there's the actual use of it, and the media articles. I'll take moments like Drew Brees talking to Coach Payton. They can use that generically for whatever articles they're doing in the media. I'll take moments like this, or here's Coach O, because I know that they can use that for almost any article, whereas specific plays are specific to the story. This is general or generic. So there they are again. They can use it for another article, and they just take pieces of this in their inventory and plug and play to their articles. There's a different type of image that they ask me to shoot specifically many times, what I call the generic images, where there is no specific story. Because when we get into off seasons and new recruiting players where there is no images, they many times like these generics because they can just pick them up, plug and play to any articles they want to do. So that's the vantage point that I take when I'm going in to the actual shooting. I also include in there the environment, shooting the wide angle of the events, specific players that are coming in. And I'd like you to watch this because if I got the right one next, while Drew Brees is real hot, we all know he's almost in the back end of his career. So we've got this next image, this one ready to go, because this is going to tell the story at the end of 1 or 2 more years when he's on his way out. So we're thinking about the stories as we go. Alvin Kamara, same thing. Coming into Tiger Stadium. Renee, that could have been that day. We all know that we can't do that anymore because they don't let us back out on the 50 right now. Look at the angles. Tiger's getting ready to go on the field, the band. Look at the angle down low, right? Look at the angle to position against that background, whatever these players do. This is this is ahead of time. I knew what the background was going to be. Okay. So what I'm going to get into is the and because I'm going to get it out of the way, it comes up as a mainline topic up front many times. What everyone was talking about, what are the lenses you use? Frankly, most of the talk is not going to be there, but I need to kind of get it there and get it out of the way because a lot of the things that we're going to use are going to apply to the different commentary that we're going to make, okay? So, Renee, I don't know if you can control it from your side or not on the screen. Maybe we shouldn't mess with it. I'm going to show a few things up here that are not the pictures, right? Just a couple items that I'm going to reach for. So I don't know if they can make me bigger or if we should even attempt to mess with that. I could just talk small, I guess. Everybody sees on the picture the 400-2/8, the classic big lens, but every photographer out there virtually, if you look real close, has a big and a short. And almost every time the big lens is a 400-2/8 and a 70-200-2/8, sometimes an ultra wide. The specific idea that everybody's reaching for, as opposed to a 600 f4, a 500 f4, everybody's shooting 2/8 glass, and there's a reason for that. It's not only because it takes in more light and allows you a faster shutter speed, that would be true, but it's also that if you take, and I think most of us know this, if you take any given camera body and put it on the back of a 2/8 lens as opposed to a f4 or 5.6, if we take that 2/8 lens, that camera is going to autofocus even faster, right? Every aperture bigger, the autofocus speed, the speed of its ability to track a player moving, the speed of autofocus picks up. So this is all 2/8 glass across the board for the most part, for most of the people on the sidelines, right? Now, as soon as I say that, somebody has got great experience in using some other lens, that's fine. The second thing from a technical, from a gearing perspective is I use what are called sling strap, the straps on the back of your camera. I don't know if anybody uses, and I hope y'all can see this, these sling straps. They're very easily maneuverable. Let me see if this actually works. They're very easily maneuverable so that if you're changing from one lens to the other, I literally can take this guy and just almost throw it and it'll just zip and fall in place behind my back, right? This lens will always very specifically be on my right hip. And there's a reason for that. Because if I'm shooting with a big lens on a monopod, the play changes and I need the other lens, I need to be able to put this down very quickly and pick this up. And if you think about it, if you're right-handed, if I reversed what I'm doing, it simply wouldn't work. You get crossed up in the straps. Now, it's not that you have we want to get this down where everything is so fast, it's an adrenaline junkie shoot, that I have every movement planned so that if I have to react, if I waste an extra half second, I will have missed that wide receiver catching the ball. And so I have it down to muscle memory of what I'm going to reach for, how I'm going to sling this, where I'm going to go. Do I begin auto-focusing when my hand's already on the way up? It's kind of a crazy adrenaline junkie shoot to me. I love that. But for those of y'all who know me in nature granola, go hug a tree mode, right? That you wouldn't recognize me in this shoot, right? These are two different, and it's like being both right-brained and left-brained, Jekyll and Hyde. This is an adrenaline junkie shoot, and I throw myself into the point of muscle memory. The second thing, let's talk skill set. I think most people, many people are back button focused at this point, but I am almost exclusively, that thing is doing weird things, isn't it? Let's see if I just change it.
It's your virtual background.
Yeah, so is that what that is? Hang with me a second.
But we were able to see your strap
Okay.
thing.
Okay, there you go. It might be cleaner. I'm doing back button focus with my thumb, and we won't get into all the descriptions of that and spend time on it, but suffice it to say, when you de-link your trigger from your thumb, much like cocking a gun and firing a rifle with two fingers, it creates a better mechanism. I don't know how to describe it. I think almost all of the professional shooters shoot that way. It allows a better autofocus tracking, start up the focus early. We're going to use exclusively continuous focus. That makes sense. And exclusively high frame rate. The hardest thing to do many times is to find when the quarterback throws the ball and that ball's in the air and you don't even know which receiver and you're trying to swing and find that with, say, a large lens, a 400-2.8. My God, how in the heck? And if you can't do that almost like muscle memory, here's my analogy, because I think most of us understand binoculars. Have you ever gone out in nature, wherever else you go, and you take a pair of binoculars and the first few times you do that and you're hunting, you're trying to find something, versus once you've used them for a good amount of time later in the trip, you can almost whip it up and you go right to that subject. I want you to think of the nuance of that very small difference. When things start migrating toward muscle memory, the same thing happens with a large lens. I'm actually looking over the lens like a rifle barrel and I'll whip it up right and hit right onto that. But I've already started autofocusing as it's coming up and I'm ready to fire, because if I see it, I missed it. If I see the ball coming into the picture, it's too late. Just the amount of time where I see that ball coming in, there's no way for me to get that trigger finger down fast enough. So I'm looking at the receiver, I'm whipping it up real fast. I get there and I will start firing as I see that receiver just start going up. The ball isn't even arrived yet. So again, for those who are into adrenaline junkie, I see that as fun. That's a challenge. And for what it's worth, I fail most of the time, right? And I embrace that. I embrace that because it keeps it fun and it keeps it a challenge. I like that challenge. Other things that are two other equipment things that I think have really helped, and y'all can laugh at me. Let me see if it's in the picture. No, it's in the next picture, I think. Let me see. Yeah, it's in this picture. I'm on the right there. There's a critical piece of equipment. Jessica's laughing at me because it's going to be, well, two people. I have my belt that goes on. You'll see I have the belt that I carry a bunch of stuff with out on the field. But the other critical piece of the equipment is my ladies' lingerie right here, right? I took a piece of lingerie because the thing tears up your knees. And so I will literally wear this around my knees. If y'all are recording this and going to hang me out and repeat that, I'm going to kill y'all, Renee. But
it is being recorded.
yeah, okay. All right, I'm good. But I will literally, and you'll see it on my knees in the picture, I'm wearing from Walgreens, ladies' black
Pantyhose.
Pantyhose. There it is. Couldn't get the word. Pantyhose. So buy your pantyhose, gentlemen, right there. So let's jump back to skills. Can you think of anything
Well,
else?
Mark, let's, since if we're moving away from equipment, let's give everybody an opportunity to ask questions about the equipment stuff. If you have a question, unmute your mic, ask it, just don't talk over each other.
What cameras do you use?
I'm shooting the Canon. Thank you for that. Who was that actually? Who was asking that?
That was George Carpenter.
Hey, George. George, one of my favorite guys on the Facebook site. George, I'm using the Canon. I'm not lobbying for Canon. There's a lot of good bodies. You'll see a lot of good Canon shooters because I think in the sports world, their autofocus rocks. I'm using the 1DX, the first model. I know that the newer one, there's one more advanced, and they're coming out with a third, I think. But I didn't see a lot of differences. But I will shoot multiple DXs on the field, primarily for the autofocus capacity. Is that what you were asking about?
Yes.
George, if I can ride coattails, sometimes I'll carry a third camera body around my neck. It's not in this picture, but I'll put a short lens, either a 24-70 or a 16-35, because what'll happen is you get a touchdown and you have no lens. They're right in front of you and you can't go wide enough and there's no time to change. And so a lot of photographers will carry yet a third body, and I'll use a smaller non-pro body like a 5D4 or something and put that around my neck with a short lens as well. So I'll have crisscross straps going on, and this goes back to anal. There are crisscross straps, but the 70-200, this is how planned this is. The 70-200 is on top. The other one's on the bottom because it's seldom used, and I'll just muscle through that thing, the tension underneath that.
Any other equipment questions?
Mark, I have a question. Would you run through that pantyhose setup you did? I think I could use some knee pads like that. And I have a lot of old pantyhose.
And,
So,
and why would you use, why pantyhose over just a good set of knee pads?
now, that's a great question, actually. I have 2 or 3 sets of knee pads. I cannot get those suckers with not binding the back of my knees, and they bite on me after a while. They don't stay in position. And somebody, I read on, I don't even know where I got the idea. I steal ideas from everybody, and the club here included. And somebody was talking about this, and I said, well, darn it, I'm not going to tell anybody, not you've recorded me. I'm gonna go out and get myself a pair. So there I am walking down the aisle, just kind of looking around. Just, you know, it's a guy moment. Make sure nobody's seeing me, right? Buying my pantyhose at the store. But they actually do work better than knee pads. I can still feel the grass or the artificial turf, but it's enough. Has anybody ever shot a game and getting your knees all torn up? That's rough.
Yeah.
It's rough.
So do you just cut the panty part off and the toe part off and make kind of a rolled up part?
Yeah, it's an in-between. That's just an in-between piece of a leg. That's all it is. And I might double it up and do it over the knee. And it might work its way down and I pull it back up, whatever. But a fashion statement to behold, I assure you.
All right, if there's no other questions, you can move to your next one.
I will mention one other thing that I thought of just now from equipment. I'm using fast downloadable CF cards to both to write speed and read speed. Write speed to clear the buffer. There's nothing more frustrating when a play is happening in front of you and you buffer out and you can't shoot and you're just dying in the moment. It's a fabulous moment and you can't shoot. So I want high transfer rate cards. I forget the different measuring and stuff. We won't get into the gear heading. Somebody else can give me the numbers later. But but also for later on the transfer. I may shoot 2,000 shots in the game, so I want to be able to download quickly as well. Anything else you can think of from a year standpoint? No? Okay, cool. Let's go to, I'm going to merge into technique in and out as we go, but one of the biggest things I love in technique with the 70 to 200 is the play's getting ready to start. If it's close enough to me, I'll wide angle out so I can see more. And the minute I know where the ball's going, I just go right to full 200. And I mean, I'm hard on my gear. I go bam, and I just slap it all the way to 200 and go. That allows me not to miss the play because I'm going wide to narrow. I don't get that opportunity on fixed focal length lenses. So. All right, let's see where I had this set up according to the slideshow, so let me see where this slideshow takes me, and I'll just talk as we go, and people can raise their hands. You will hear me say over and over and over again when we talk today from a skill set, from a vision perspective, I like getting down low. I like getting down low because it creates a different visual vantage point than anything anybody's seeing elsewhere. Look at this image, and I want you to think, where are we? We are below the shoulder pads of the lineman. Just think about that, down on 1 knee. Look at how you're looking into Danny Etling, in this case, quarterback's eye. So what I love about that low, to me, it creates an intimacy, if that's a proper word for sports, an intimacy from a vision perspective, and we'll talk over and over about that as we go forward. The second thing I'm looking for is I'm looking for a separation between the foreground and the background. Now, traditionally, when I'm shooting along the line here, down the sideline, and I'm looking at the crowd in the background, there's still a lot of noise in that background. There's some separation here, and the 2.8 lens helps. But as we get to further images later on, where I'm primarily an end zone shooter, and I love the end zone because the end zone is going to create, the background is 100 yards plus away, and it's really going to fall off as we go forward. In terms of transferability to other sports, this is a big time important. Let's say I'm shooting the playground, and we're shooting kids' sports. I imagine that there's the other kids' parents right there across in my background. But you know where nobody is? At least I don't think they are. I haven't shot kids' sports in a while, but I don't think there's anybody in the end zones. And I'm telling you, the end zones are where it's at, and we'll spend time talking about that. But the retention piece here is we're down low, kneeling down. If you got troubled knees, this is going to be a problem right here. But that's going to create a vantage point that I'm going to work. See where this thing goes. Look at where we are. This is Cook catching a pass this past year. We're underneath him. Look, he's looking down at us. Look at that background. The background is dropping out. I see a San Francisco helmet off to the right, so I know it's the San Francisco game. What a moment. We're after these defining moments. This was in the national championship game. If you remember the moment when Clyde Edwards-Helaire was almost tackled for a safety. Does everybody remember that? He was almost tackled for a safety right in the end zone. Look at how close it is. Look at the bottom of the image. We're down so low that you're seeing the end zone in your foreground. You are below the pad level, or right around football level is about where I am, right? So look at the visual that you're looking up, and it makes the players looming. It makes them a little bit more of a giant, and you'll see that even more as we get further in. Let's stop for a moment and recognize there's something else you're going to see in pattern, something that I resisted. And it was imposed on me by Fox 8, and now I've grown to love it. Look at the dimensions of the pictures. I don't know if you've picked that up yet. The dimensions are not normal dimensions. These are 2x1 dimensions. They're not quite panoramic, but they're stretched. Man, that's the way they're using them for articles. And I was submitting my pictures, and they're cropping them, right? And I'm all upset. I'm like, that doesn't look right, you know? And I told them, I said, just tell me what the dimensions are. I'll do the cropping. And oh my God, the visual eye thing, you talk about when we learn classic rules of thirds or with the golden circles and all this, you talk about shift your visual framework. Think shooting 2x1, or at least in your post-processing crops, and it changes the way your eye travels. I would submit that I've become more excited about sports photography visually in that format. I like it. I prefer it. I want it now. Okay? I'm going to keep rolling. And I'm just using look at how low we are again. We're looking up at Lawrence, the LSU coming out of the end zone. We're looking up at the quarterback. Look at the background. The background is gone. We don't see that sideline. This is that view from the back of the end zone. Look at the view. That guy's eyes, the lineman, we're almost at eye level with him. Creates a really more engaging feel. I get asked, I don't know, this one's a little out of order, but who cares? And Jessica's laughing at me. My phone blew up during the national championship game, and this one's something I posted on Facebook. I get asked this question. Boy, this is out of order. Here's the number one question I get asked when I do stuff on sports photography. Have you ever been mowed over, right? You ever get run down? I'm thinking, you want to talk about lenses or shutter speeds or vision? No. I want to know if you ever got run over, right? And so my phone blew up and somebody pulled this out. And if you look closely, I don't know what in the heck good this would do, but I'm sitting there with my arm out like I'm going to stop this person from mowing me down with that arm. So I got busted, and a bunch of people in the club railed me on that too. I'm going to jump to what the traditional photography is about, and then I'm going to get back to the people. Traditional sports photography, everybody seems to frame it around the defining moment. This is what we think of. We think of the ball's about to be snapped. You're in the end zone. I knew the player. They're on the 1 foot line, and I knew what the Saints do. Breeze might come over the top. He does that I knew the pattern. And instead of being normally where I am in the end zones near the corners, I migrated to the middle. I just guessed at it. And I guessed right. Here comes Breeze over the top. I'm underneath him, right? Predicting the motion, the defining moments. And that became the story that day as they won that game. Joe Burrow in the national championship, when he took off and ran for the end zone and scores the touchdown, one of the defining moments that we knew as LSU fans sometime whenever that was, that, wow, we're starting to pull away from these people, right? The defining moments are when we think sports photography, at least for a lot of this becomes the default setting. I'm going to talk about other stuff, but there's Moss catching that touchdown pass, tiptoeing. And yes, somebody's going to go, hey, that left foot is on the white line. And of course that was reviewed and his left foot went down after, but what have you. But the defining moments are classically Leonard Fournette a couple years back throwing that Auburn player over his head, the defining moments. And of course the one from this year, right? How much more defining than that? Look at where we are visually. We're at the level of that player. Look how low we are. Creates a different vantage point to the shoot. Can you do this in other sports venues, whatever else you're shooting? That's the tape I would be playing. What would happen if I got lower? Now, I'm not saying that sounds like a formulaic coaching, but I just like it, so I can only impart what I like, right? Look at this low one. What's the message here? That's Matt Ryan doing what Matt Ryan does at Saints games, right? He's getting whacked. And I don't know, somebody might know number 54's name, I forget, but boy, that's a linebacker, and he's got the look on him, huh? We're down almost at Matt Ryan's level. And that looming nature of getting down low makes that other player even bigger. Let's talk, well, let me see what else I have here. And I'm going to talk positioning on the field. You know what? I'm going to talk just a little bit about positioning on the field. And I'm hoping people can see me. And I'm not sure if this will work, and I could probably draw it somehow with technology, but I'm old school, so I'm just going to do something here. I'm hoping you could see this piece of paper that I've drawn, right? And what I'm going to talk about is positions on the field, positions of strength. I'm playing the game for the maximum opportunity. Inevitably, we'll guess wrong. But it's kind of like when you play baseball or golf. It's a game of odds and averages and statistics. And what I'm going to go through are the different positions. There are mostly 4 that I use repetitively in a football shoot. Now, what I hope you're thinking about is, again, whatever sport you're shooting is, what are the positions of maximum potential? Not that we want to fall into formulaic shooting. And there's a tug there. All right, here's your football field. Can everybody see that, by the way? Renee, can you see that? Just give me a thumbs up, Renee.
Well, actually, I just I don't have all my pictures of the people across my screen anymore.
Okay. Hey, George, I can see you. Is that big enough, George Carpenter? Okay, we got it. I could see. All right.
Yeah, and so if people choose the individual rectangle at the top, which just puts you up in the corner, they can drag the corner of that box and they can make you larger if they want to.
Okay, we'll let everybody tinker for just a moment with that if you want to, and just be ready to pull back to the slides when we're ready. Everybody, I see some people reaching down on their computers. Give you a second. We got to play the Jeopardy music, right? All right. All right, here we go. Here's your football field, okay? This is the end zone chute, and the end zone chute has 3 different spots, and there's the sideline chute. These boxes, when we walk around a football field from the 30 to the 30, you can't go there, that's where the team is. But boy, you can work this box right here, and I'm gonna ask a question that just pause with the answer, is what is the opportunity there? The opportunity there is clear. You can do all the sideline interaction between the players as they're up and down during the game to tell the personal stories. You'll see that in a little while. But also I'm in line with that image that goes down the line of the players as the teams work their way down the field. But I'm spending most of my time back here. There are 3 different positions that I'm working. A classic corner, 1/3 out, and at the 50% line right in the middle, okay? Classic corner. That's the image we actually had just a couple back where, boy, I could see straight down the sideline and I could shoot the end zone. And what I'm doing here is when the team is coming toward me, when the team is marching toward that end zone, I like that sideline shoot because I have a long lens where I'm playing the middle of the field with a clear background. But if it comes close to me, as the team gets closer, I'll be on the 70 to 200. But follow this. When the team gets closer, I'm going to the 70 to 200 because they're within the 10, 15, 20-yard line or in. But I take my long lens and I put a teleconverter, 400/28 plus a teleconverter, 560, over 500 millimeters, and I'm doing that for a reason. What am I doing? Why am I putting a longer lens on when the team gets closer? The reason is because I'm in this corner slot, is I got that on the coach and the sidelines at this point, because if there's a score, a touchdown, a bad play, I'm recording, I'm ready to go there, and my short lens is ready to do the field. This is pre-planned, this is a pattern, and put you in maximum position to catch Matt Ryan getting his you-know-what whooped, right? The second position I'll move out a little bit is because I'm one shooter. I'm not part of a team like the Associated Press, where they put people in all the corners and stuff. I'm one shooter, and I'm trying to cover the overall game, and I need to catch a vantage point that's across the field. Inevitably, somebody's going to say, well, why don't you just get in the middle? The team's coming towards you. Why don't you just get in the middle? And the answer is goalposts. Goalposts. Gets in the way. But I'm traditionally shooting my team coming at me. I'll always be in the front. They're coming at me. I don't want to see my team's butts. Maybe some people want to see that. I'm not interested. I want to see my team coming at me. Now, you may be wondering, if you're listening to old Mark, well, you just told me 50% right in the middle of the field is bad because the goalposts are going to block on either side. And that would be true. There is an exception. When do I want to be right there in the middle? Here's when. Imagine a punt comes all the way at you. It happened in the LSU Clemson game twice. In the beginning of the game, think about the game. Clemson punts the ball. LSU downs the ball right here inside like the 5-yard line. And oh my God, the action is right in front of me. Now I want you to imagine it's reversed. The other team has the ball. Let's say Clemson had the ball on the 5-yard line and they got to go 95 yards. The visual experience is right here. I'm waiting for LSU to come at me and pound this team and tackle them for a safety in the end zone. Much like this picture, I can get down there right in the middle, and most of the action is going to be right in my face because they're trying to go away from me 95 yards. The other thing that photographers will do, and I don't know, they'll look at you like they're crazy in Little League ball, we're not just getting low, but if you look back at this picture, we're laying on our stomachs, right? Now, if anybody has shot sideline before, they know that somebody's going to come by and fuss at you sometimes. All photographers just laugh, get over it, they go right back to it. But boy, we're trying to get so low, we'll actually lay down on our stomachs as well. I hope that helps a little bit. I'm going to keep it rolling. Any questions? Oh, there's that corner view, by the way. There's the corner view. look at the sideline, the line going away from us. It's a great line going out away from the picture. Okay. Look at
Mark, I had a question
yeah, go ahead.
on your positions at the game. How many times do you have an opportunity to change your position during a game? And is there kind of a hierarchy of who gets the better spots?
Yee. So how many times do I change? I'm constantly changing. Let me tell you, by the end of the season, man, my thighs are feeling pretty damn good because you always geared, you're up, down, trying to run. By the fourth quarter, you're worn out. And by the time you're home the next day with a 3-story condo, you're working over ibuprofens on your knees, right? But the answer is it's a very fluid situation. You could change anytime you want. Notwithstanding that some of the bigger games, imagine LSU, Alabama, you're just bunched in there, or an NFL playoff game. And so if somebody else is already there, what's interesting is everybody wants their team coming at them. And at the end of every quarter, you flip. And so you'll see all the photographers at the end of the quarter go run down there. And what they're doing is that everybody's trying to get that prime corner position, right? And they're clustering. And it's almost a thing of comedy. Now, is there a pecking order? Technically, no. Whoever gets the spot, that's their deal. Except sometimes they'll have the videographers in front of you. And when the national championship game happened, they had different vests if you're Associated Press or NFL Films, and they got their spot. And, we're all, okay, whatever else y'all can do. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
Hey, Mark,
Yes, sir.
do you do you do any like scouting or any pregame work? You have a strategy for it, maybe to familiarize yourself with the opposition's playmakers, and if you do you keep that in mind, like to be in a position, say, to be in a good shot for, say, J.J. Watt or Emmanuel Sanders?
First of all, congratulations for us getting Emmanuel Sanders. Isn't that the receiver we just got?
Yes.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I'm going to hold this up. Jessica just wrote me a hint note right there. And she says, talk about anticipating and knowing the game. And there you queued that up right on perfectly. The answer is yes, to some extent. There's a lot of this that's pattern. And when I'm thinking you're talking about is not pregame, but the game itself. And when I know that Drew Brees, when we know Joe Burrow's on the field, let's back up. How much of a short running game, classic LSU, did we see this year? Not much. We knew that this is long ball. We're not used to this. So the photographers said, to heck with this. Get all the way down to the other end zone because it's coming and it's coming quick, right? So that's a great question, and that's an iconic, perfect timing response. But in terms of individual games, I will tell you, for example, when Teddy Bridgewater came in for the Saints, we knew that it wasn't going to be as much long ball. At least we thought it was going to be more ball control. And they tried, and they struggled with it a little bit, but we would go tighter to the line because of that. We know that if Cam Newton's playing, there's going to be more running. We know that if Drew Brees is going to be doing it, it's going to be more of a passing. He's not going to take off and run, right? So in answer to your question, I'm into anticipating the opportunity, and I like to maximize the potential of what I think might happen. If I see, what's number 7, the Saints, the other quarterback, that can do everything guy, plays wide receiver.
Mason Hill.
Thank you. If Mason Hill goes in the game, do you think the odds went up that just maybe he's going to run the ball, right? So the answer to your question is a lot of pre-scouting. To the person that I am a football fan first, and a photographer, I should say, both. And so in answer to your question, I'm enjoying both of those processes in order to up my odds. I laughingly think about baseball. What's the difference between a 250 hitter and a 350? It's everything. The 350 is all pro, and the 250 is just one of the guys. And that's just the odds movement. How we do with that one?
Very good.
Were you thinking anything else in terms of anticipating motion, Jess? Let's think on that.
Yeah, there's 2 different ways of anticipating, and it's also in the just that you talk about muscle memory, but it's also knowing where the ball is going to go before it gets there. You really need to be there before it gets there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You really do need to be there before it gets there.
I struggled with that. when I
Yeah,
started.
it's fun when you get down there and you get your butt kicked and you realize, God dog it, man, this stuff's fast.
Yeah. I've been
Um,
holding down the trigger too. Like if you're used to shooting like single shoot, you can't do any of that. I mean, you are laying on it.
mhm.
Because to get the moments he gets, you know, you saw the one previously with like the feet in the air and he's off the ground, and it's like that is one of like 50 shots he took of that.
You're not supposed to tell my secrets.
No, but
like
it is, and you have to do it that way.
It's called spray and pray.
Yeah.
No.
But you got to do it with this kind of shoot.
You do. You do. It's definitely a different animal. You know, let's take just a minute and let's jump the tracks for just a minute, and because this is nowhere in the slides. Let's talk about some other technical concepts. Very specifically, two that come to mind is a couple hints on post-processing and a couple hints on white balancing. Okay, and then we'll go back to images. Post-processing, there's a huge repetitive problem in football. The green cast that's coming off the field. The green cast coming off that field, it's hard, man. And I'm just sitting here with this funky looking yellowish green repetitively over and over and over. One of the things I started doing before a game, I'll go to the end zone, I bring a white card or whatever, black, gray, white card, and I'll do a custom white balance. And I started shooting that way. I improved it a lot. But even with that, I wasn't able to extract that. Now, maybe that's a Canon problem. Somebody else will say, try Nikon, and woo. So the second solution was I was in Lightroom and I started working presets over and over and working presets. And I was struggling still with that green, and Jessica finally slapped me on the head. She comes back there and she goes, Doofus, it's in your yellows. The tint is off in your yellows. It was the slider bar in the yellows that was importing green. And so think about in your shoots, if you're a Lightroom person, think yellows was something I learned. Yellow tints.
Reflects on the skin tone too. Like the green comes up, you know, from the grass and takes their skin tones really wonky. So.
Skin tones and white shirts
Yeah.
look just bad. Okay, let's see what else comes up here. I'm going to jump back into the image. So here we are down the field, and Darius Geis bursts into the open. He's breaking free. We're shooting at it with a 400, and I'm laying on this thing and buffering out. Now I'm dying, right? But the defining moments coming right at you when you're in that end zone. Okay, here we are again, and I'm not gonna, I'm gonna claim this shot again, but that would be false. I take Jessica to shoot her first NFL game, and she whooped my, what? She shows me this image out of the back of her camera. I'm like, what? Yeah. So she nails this one from the end zone. I lent her my 400 to shoot for a minute, and she explained to me how the lens worked, right? And so again, look at the height of the player. We're underneath the player. Back to the pan. Look at the clean backgrounds, right? The defining moments, having fun when they, what was that guy's name? Fromm or one of those guys, Georgia?
Yes.
Yeah. Defining moments, funny moments even, right? Defining moments, we're at their level. We're going to keep rolling. Here it comes toward the end zone. I forget which number 18 this was. We've had several wonderful ones. Ben Watson catching a pass, rolling toward us. We're going to get, actually, it's good. We're going to get to that. One of the other things, thank you. One of the other things is also, don't forget the linemen, man. If you don't have anything else going on, the game's almost over. The game within the game's fun. You get these linemen, and oh my God, every play could be a penalty. These guys they're hilarious how they just go at each other, man. It's something. Michael Thomas cutting.
Look at those arms.
Yeah, he's got some arms. Jessica's loving the arms. Look at that high. Matt Ryan trying to get out of, and he did get out of, getting a safety. Look at the upward angle. Laying on our stomach. That's the one where he was backed up in the end zone. They're snapping the ball to him. He's backing up in the end zone, and we're laying and looking up. This is sports shooting at 70 millimeter because the 70 to 200 was maxed out. I couldn't get any wider. I was like, needed a shorter lens. Classic Drew Brees. Okay, Renee knows this one. This is cheater time. Should I tell my secret? Totally tell the secret. Okay. How do you get wide receivers catching the ball? It's so hard to do. The answer is, if you come during pregame, there's nobody in the stands, so they're warming up. You get these shots. Well, here's the laughing. The stadium, by the way, at LSU is not barren pregame in one place. What's the one place that's stacked up before every other one?
Student section.
Student section. So I get on the 30-yard line opposite the student section. They start warming up. Guess what I'm doing, right? Maybe I shouldn't have said that, but you know, you can get predictable, amazing pass catching shots. Thank you, students. Drew,
The fact that the Nike swoosh was in perfect position for that shot as well.
say again, Renee?
I like the fact that the Nike swoosh was in the perfect spot on the football in that shot.
Oh, I painted that after so I could sell the image.
Well, if you're going to cheat, right, you may as well just go all the way.
Yeah. Finish off your cheating self right there. Drew Brees looking right at us. I like looking through the players, looking through the stuff happening and having the clarity coming behind the image. Redskin players, Michael Thomas cuts. Straight down the line, sideline, 70 to 200, waiting for that quarterback glance across the way. Look at the power of the lineman, right? Look at the story we're telling. Jake Fromm just getting that ball out with Devin White. Look at the arms on Devin White. Beautiful light this day. The eyes of Michael Thomas. Defining moments as Kamara cuts away from everybody. And of course, when Drew Brees sets the record, where's the first place everybody went? To his family, right? To his family. I got an awe from Jessica over here. That's a win, right? Aw.
I hadn't seen that one.
You hadn't seen that one?
Mm-mm.
You should look at my work more often. So let's stop for just a minute because we're going to go to something that Jessica actually queued me up. It's interesting. She says, make sure to talk about keep shooting after the play. And that's what we're going to do next. But any quick observations or questions or dialogue on the defining moments before we jump further? Okay, I'm going to keep it rolling because we actually, believe it or not, are going to get up against time. If we don't finish, we don't finish. You know, I'll roll as much as I want. Look, after every play, it's after the play where some of the defining shots are taken. If you actually look in the newspaper and the media, and it's the celebrations, what happens in pattern is this. The play is over, the touchdown, and everybody smiles and everybody high fives, but all the cameras went down. And then this happens, right? And then this happens. The predator, Dante. And then this happens. And going to the crowd. And getting up in the crowd. Mark Ingram. First down. What does Chase and Michael Thomas share in common? What do they do after every play? These are predictable outcomes.
Dance.
How about this? Right? We know they do that. We know 56 does this after every play. Predictable storytelling outcomes. After the play, the cameras go down. A few people keep shooting. That's when the cool stuff happens. It even happens on the sideline and with the parents, the fans, wherever. After the play, look at this monster, right? That's love that. Look at this one after the play. What just the storytelling, the crowd. Florida's going down, man. In Arkansas, celebrating after a play. And after every defensive interception, where do the Saints players run? To the other end zone, and here they come. Know your game. The question came up earlier. Is an excellent question. Is do you pre-plan? Do you pre-scout? These are pattern. Be ready. I don't know what's going to happen, but be ready to up your odds. Michael Thomas, first down. After the play. There it is. Michael Thomas. There it is. I see George giving the head nod over there. I mean, that's down, and that's the same thing Chase did all year, right? After he'd score. The lineman, Jordan, he does that after a lot of his big win plays. And the eyes of Drew Brees coming right at you. Through another player, slightly out of focus, telling you the story, but it's about the eyes of Drew Brees. And Peyton. penalties take place, the sideline. This is that low view from the end zone. That guy's hair or something. And how about that for a little storytelling? I'm not sure I'd want to be busted and have my picture taken like that, but you know, okay. Pre-game. Look at that. Every LSU game, this shot's available, by the way, in the far end zone when the team comes out after the stuff goes off and comes through. Cool shooting, and it's over in 5 minutes. There's the other people in the game telling the stories. Who are the other people? From the cheerleaders, up close. I lost my other people. Let's see if they come up. Zooming in on the sidelines, the coordinated work, even when there's a penalty, the lobbying efforts. I'm going to talk for a minute about after the game, but what I'd like to do is open it up for just a minute because we're going to get up against time, and I could continue with, I got another section that talks about the people, which actually I think is the best section, or we can just go to dialogue. Renee, do you want to take a couple questions if there are any comments, or I might just go to the people, whatever y'all want to do.
Anybody have a question, chime in. If not, we'll move on.
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
What sort of, you shoot a lot of night games in the stadium and at LSU. What sort of ISO settings do you put your cameras at? Different ones for your longer lens cameras that you have on?
That's an excellent question. You know, I get asked about settings a lot. I should have anticipated that question. Traditionally, when I'm at the shooting LSU, my ISOs are anywhere between 4,000 and 8,000, depending on the lighting that they've lit up and whether it's at the end of the day or late at night. But I may be as high as 6,400. I don't like to go to 8. Some of the newer cameras may be able to handle the noise better. But I'm going to give away, this is one of my few areas that I'm going to give away a little noise because I need my shutter speed. It's always going to be 2.8 shooting because I'm reaching for all I can get. I need more, right? So it's almost going to be formulaic 2.8. My shutter speed is going to, I'm reaching for 1,600, right? I'm reaching for 1,600 of a second. That's my freeze point. I'll take more if I can get it. 12/50th of a second. I'll live with it if I can get it. But boy, if I start trailing below that, I'm going to start being uncomfortable with the slight softening of images and stuff. That's just my threshold. And I'll bump ISO if I need to get what I need. The Superdome, I know that I'm shooting 1/1600 at f2.8 at, I think it's ISO 3200. One of the backup to this technical moment, I'll get back to vision work in a minute. One of the technical things to think about too is that the light is not even. People say, do you shoot aperture, value, or program mode, or manual? I shoot manual almost totally. It's two problems with it. There's two situations that come up where it's a problem. But I'm going to shoot manual, and the reason for that is I'm down low and my background is changing constantly, right? And so the meter is going to take lighter, darker image constantly. And so what's going to happen is that's going to create a problem for me. So I'm going to shoot manual. I'm going to set, and as they arrive toward the end zone, the light starts trailing down, especially in Tiger Stadium. And so if I'm shooting manually and all of a sudden the player is right here on the 5-yard line, guess what? The stadium lighting is from the side. They're no longer front lit. They're starting to die off and the light's dying off. So at that moment, I need to increase my light under some decision model. The second thing that I run into problems, if I spin around and I want to shoot the crowd, the field is much brighter than the crowd at every stadium. The field is brighter than the crowd. So what I will do there is I'll give away a little bit. I'll go to aperture value, shoot the crowd, come back. My manual settings are still ready to go for the field. My aperture value is already preset with a max aperture. I just shoot, turn around, go manual. I'm ready to roll again before the next play. That's probably more than you asked for.
No. Do you set your ISO like the range, like between, you know, your 1600 and your 64 or your 40 or your 6400?
Where setting a range is valuable is if you're using program shoots, but I'm doing manual. I'm setting it myself.
I understand, but if so you're going to have to change that your ISO every time you're going to change that shot?
No, I'm going to leave the ISO for most of the game. Let me just say 90% of what I'm shooting, it's a fixed setting. For the most part, it's out on the field mostly, and then in the sidelines. So mostly there's no changing at all. It's just that I have to be heads up on my exceptions. And in the moment of the exception, yes, I'll do a change, right? Some change I'll decide around.
Gotcha.
Okay.
Thanks.
In
Mark, I
order,
have a question. If you're shooting in Tiger Stadium, and let's say it's a 2:30 game, and then the game goes on, and it's before daylight saving time, the stadium's going to start getting darker. So you have to make adjustments, halftime, third quarter on in, right?
agreed. That's one of the most difficult situations. Your technical skills need to be primed, not just your visual skills. This is an and equation, photographic experience. It's technical skills and vision work, right? And so you're correct. You're already reading one of the problems and the exceptions. The minute I go manual, I'm importing some static nature to it in order to create some controls. But if I'm a good photographer and I know my manual settings, I need to be heads up, reviewing my images, looking at a histogram and saying, my gosh, the light is dropping. Adjust, right? That's a good read. Anybody else? I'm going to keep us rolling so that some people may have to check out on us. We'll certainly honor that. I think the next section is visually one of the best in terms of putting together. In terms of me, I get excited about it. And so I'm going to try to fire through it quickly because I think it's the message more than the shots. And what I'd like you to think about is I'm going to talk about after the game, and then I'm going to talk about the people of the game. After the game, you go on the field. There's a point of showing this image. If you look closely, and you have to look real closely, you're going to see that my two camera bodies that I was shooting now have a 70-200 and I think that's a 16-35. What you're seeing on the right over here is the big lens is already put away. There's no camera body any longer in the big lens. When about a minute or two left in the game, I'm switching out and I'm going short because the image potential is now going to be on the field. Think Little League right after the game when the kids come together, they're high-fiving. Think the parents coming together. Think the game has now changed. The vision opportunity has changed. So the lens selection anticipates the next opportunity. And the chances are it's not a big lens, at least classically, right? So what happens after the game are shots like this. 16-35, national championship. I saw the background and I went, I just need somebody in my foreground. I'm just looking for players with this amazing background going on, right? Mark Ingram after the game, celebrating. Nick Saban shaking the hand of Ed Ogeron. No, that wasn't this year. That was last year. We didn't win. Cam Newton coming to talk to the media. Odell Beckham Jr. signing a jersey, short lens, 16-35. Look at the distortion across the bottom of the image as the shirt bends down, allowing us to get right up into the space with him. He was cool with it. Celebrations after the game, 16-35 at 16 millimeters. You're right there. We've gone wide for post game. In celebration of the kicker. Actually, it's kind of cool that image is there, given that Tom Dempsey passed away yesterday. This is when our kicker won the game. And this celebration, which we all know was championship game, you could see the background, right? Post game can tell as much stories as the game itself. Notice we have migrated past classical sports shooting, where did I catch the guy catching the pass, right? We're now migrating to storytelling beyond the iconic. What do you expect? You expect the touchdown, but there's so much more happening. How about this one? We all know that one, right? The game after the game. And the place that I said was one of the best things that I'm working, this was to me some of the best. This is the vision work that's, to me, it's storytelling work, maybe it's better. This is about not about the game as much as the people that are all around us in the game, and giving some examples so that you can mess with your mind as wherever you go into sports events and say, oh, I see this cool person who's got this cool eyes thing. Maybe another one that's telling the story a different way. Let the tapes play in your head of the different events you're going to. that the crowd can tell the story as much as the players on the field. Boo, you heard the collective boo, right? Everybody remember this? Michael Thomas went and got the phone doing his Joe Horn imitation, right? The story after the play, maybe totally before the game altogether. We've all seen this. I felt it was cropping out in their faces. It's about the band and the drums and the pageantry. National championship, one of the most animated people in the field, right? Not the players. The story of Bridgewater, sitting ready to go. Morton Anderson being inducted to the Hall of Fame. The stories of the people. Of Gail Benson shortly after her husband, Tom, passed away. Of Leonard Fournette coming back and high-fiving the crowd. I don't even know what that's happening. That is the Joker. Yeah, he's something. I don't know what he is. He's scary is what he is. Something happening there. Look at that guy. Halloween game, Willie Snead. Hadn't even started the game, right? The stories that can be told in the crowd are just as good. And I submit these stories are just as good many times with the eyes of a player as the game in terms of storytelling. And I think these exist across outside of football, and you don't need a fancy big lens to shoot these. It's just seeing these, seeing the people. The Fahoko family coming from Hawaii, what are they famous for? They do their haka dance, right? Before the LSU games. And this guy, the main character, the father of the family, the stories of them doing their dance for the world to see. Telling the story of game day, the broader picture, shooting a wide lens. At sunset, like I think it was George or whoever had asked about lighting earlier, when the light is shifting. The light shifted, the game's still on, and the shot is now a different shot. Heck, I'm missing, there's a kickoff or something going on over there. I'm climbing up into the crowd. I'm like, man, I want a wide angle. Or tell us Tiger Stadium, even different again. The stories beyond the events. Our heroes from the past, Flynn, Fournette, and OBJ, right? Sports photographer, Stephen Ridley with LSU national championship and Super Bowl rings. There's stories to be told. The voodoo that used to be in New Orleans, right? And so what I'm saying is there's a lot more there if we want to pursue it. And if our mind's eye wants to travel it, that I think there's a potential to tell a lot more here than the guy catching the touchdown pass. Tua. So guys, I don't have a specific finishing point. This one might be as good as any. We're a little over time, so I want to honor everybody's time. And I can stay here and talk, and if you've got to run, that's fine too. Renee, you're in charge. However you'd like to do this time, we can do as we will.
I'm open. I mean, we don't have a time limit on the recording. If anybody has questions specific to maybe something you shoot, question you have that you think Mark can offer you some insight or hints, now's your chance. Just open your mic and ask.
Mark, I have a question. First of all, did you shoot the game in Tuscaloosa this year?
I did not. We did not get credential approved, and I was frustrated out of my mind. Fox 8 out of New Orleans, and I thought, we're in, and we weren't.
And then my other question is, I know that big games like that always attract celebrities on the sidelines. I had a friend tell me about the 2011 game of the century and talked about all the people that were on the sidelines. Do you ever kind of get involved in that in a big game? I know we have former players that come back, but in the big games, there's, you know, people outside of college football that like to be where the action is.
You know, they are as much the story as some of these other people that we know and admire as our sports heroes? And the answer is yes, I do. And actually, I have a number of them in there. I just didn't pull those images for this slideshow. But they are absolutely part of the story, and I think there's a time and a place for that. One of the interesting ones that slightly backfired was when OBJ started doling out cash during the national championship. We all know that, and I have an excellent OBJ picture. Yeah, I was going to put it in here. I went, nah, just leave him out.
Mark, are there restrictions? You know, if you're lucky enough to go shoot a game or whatever, you know, I mean, you're shooting for money. You're getting paid by an agency. They get your pictures and whatever. But what's the general rule on if you shoot it, you can't, if you're not licensed, you can't sell it. They're on personal use only. If you've got other people like these celebrities or whatever, do they come out ahead of time and tell you what you can or can't shoot?
Well, you know, Renee, isn't that one of the most talked about questions among the photographers? And the general rules are that you were not supposed to, probably not even supposed to be doing this, but no, they've really loosened up with the proliferation of the digital age. I think they've reached a saturation level of high quality images that they just can't control the outputs. And what they've told us is, if you post a few on your Facebook or something, fine, but don't sell them for money. You will get yanked, your credential yanked. And they're meant for media use, right? Now, I will say that I'm not worried about this presentation or anything. When I'm not doing anything, I'm not making money. I'm not selling prints. I'm not doing anything. I'm just sharing images. They gotten to the point where they're just loosening up again. Now, I've heard history is they were cyclical on that, but I think the horse has left the barn. There is so much digital imagery out there that I just am some better than others, that I just think they reached a point of, you know what, as long as you're not out there selling or trying to profiteer on it, they're bumping right by it. They're not going to say it's okay, but they're not crucifying it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, this is Randy.
Hey, Randy.
Hey, so do you use just a single point of focus all the time, or do you adjust the automatic focus options in the camera?
That's a good question. I went through some different decision models, and I've seen different people decide different things on that. What I ended up doing, and you're going to find this disgustingly boring, I ended up doing the little matrixy grid at the end of the day, backing out to the automation, and every decision has its problems, right? Because I found that generally speaking, the closest person to me was generally what I'm shooting, generally. But you could take an image like the one that's up here, and you could see that, I don't know what I did different. It should have focused on that saint symbol, not the player. I actually got the focus right. But I will generally use the matrix. Before you know it, somebody's passing between you and the player, and it wants to change focus on them. So the next guy will tell you, do spot focus, right? What is your experience on that?
Well, I generally use a single point of focus just because it eliminates the unwanted movement that the lens picks up. So that's the way I do it.
Yeah, and the only time at that side, like I said, everything has its fault. The only problem I've had there is when things are happening so fast, and then all of a sudden my single spot happens to not be on the right thing because I'm trying to frame things out of the center of the image. Next thing you know, I'm focusing on the crowd behind the player, and I'm like, you know.
Right, and that is one of the concerns I have, because sometimes you have the spot focus, and then like you're saying, they're moving so fast that that you're slightly off of the spot because the players move faster than your hands or your lens. But then if you do too many points of focus, then you seem to get random focal points.
Right. So maybe like everything in life, there's somewhere in the middle where you'll use not a spot, but some one of the grid selections that's generally centered or something like that. So there's no perfect on this one. I've heard it discussed every different variant, but I like your question, and I like that you're wrestling with the conclusions, and you're gonna have to make your choices on that one, right?
Thank you.
This was a great moment, by the way, when Jefferson caught that pass and just came right out of all the middle of the players during the national championship game. And when he broke free and went to the end zone, you kind of knew that he didn't go to the end zone this play, actually, but you kind of knew that LSU was starting to dominate. Somebody's got a great Cardinal outside. So what else, guys? We're just talking right now. Oh, players on the sideline. When you're shooting the sideline, get these tight shots. You can work the bench. You cannot get behind the bench. They're drawing up plays on stuff. You don't want to do that. But you shoot down the bench, and boy, you get these expressions. And that's when you're on that 30-yard line, right in that nook between the 30-yard line and then when you have to get behind the bench. It's a great shooting angle, and they let you do it. Oh, let's go back to the now. Somebody else got a question? We'll go a little bit. There's another one in here, I swear. I'm waiting for it to come up. It'll come up in a moment. I think it's, oh, there we go. Who else has got a question or a topic? Boy, they bent Lawrence over on this one, man. That was painful. Guys, I've enjoyed the time with y'all. I always like the participation. This is a little harder let me see if I can just end this sharing of the video here. Hold on. I'll just go to my screen. No, that's not it. And I don't know how to
Stop sharing.
stop share. Oh, stop share. Okay. Am I still in here?
Yes.
Okay, good. I don't know if you can see me or not. I messed with this screen, and can y'all still see me?
Yes.
Okay, well, I'm just going to talk because I don't know what's happening there.
Yes, we can see you.
Okay. I've enjoyed visiting with y'all. This is nice pullback from all of our quarantine time. That's what it was designed to be. And so I hope it yields that for you. If there's some technical knowledge that got to be added in there, then great. But it's also kind of good to see some of the club members. I hadn't seen the crew in a while, so that's great as well. I hope it added something to your day. And I guess with that, Renee, I think we're done at this point, huh? Unless you had some other duties.
That's it. Thanks, Mark. We appreciate you taking your time. It's always fun to see your incredible pictures, and I shoot those games. I don't get those pictures. So
Thanks, Mark.
so
Thanks a lot, Mark. Have a good
Yeah,
day.
thank you, Mark.
Take care. Be safe.
Have a good day.
Thank you.
Bye.